all you scholars, it's Makito here, and today we're going over the next part of Fuseki Revolution. We're at subchapter theme 13, the one space answer. So if you guys are following along with the book, I hope you're enjoying, you know, going through it. For now, let us get into this. So looking at this opening, right, very standard two star point opening and approach. And then this one I don't see too often nowadays, but of course the whole theme is to talk about the one space answer here, right? This is what I used to be known as the open door. Let us read the script. One space answer, right? One space response. So when white approaches, we do a one space. Black 2 used to be very popular and frequently used move. I knew it as the open door response, but nowadays you won't see it nearly as often and in pro games. First, let's go back and discuss why it used to be good and the difference of the open door versus the closed door, and then we'll come back to see what is preferred. So for white, if white was, let's say, to Tanuki or back off, then black will be able to kick and then pincer, right? And this is kind of an ideal attack against these two stones. They don't have a base, and white is very high up, right? So this stone is very effective against this. Um, if white plays like at 1, black gets to attack with 2 and 4. This puts the high mark stone in a great attacking position, this move here. Much better than if the stone was lower at A. This is more aggressive against these two. So this is good for black. So white usually would answer locally, right? So when black plays 2, white usually answers locally. Now, we could play here, and we could play here. But if you guys remember from the last video, or last week, we looked at how when black plays the 3-3, it feels like this move is a bit inefficient nowadays, right? So white could back off at 1 or B, but in the previous themes, we saw how black could gain some advantage right away. If white chooses these, if white chooses, and it wasn't the 3-3, I remember it's breaking the double wing first and then going into the 3-3. But yeah, if white chooses this side point, right, black can generally take an advantage. If you don't remember, check out last week's lecture where we covered the side star point in detail. The author says these moves are not bad though, so you can still feel free to play them, right? But we did see how the AI kind of handles them and makes them a little inefficient. So if you know what you're doing, you can take an advantage if your opponent plays this. And if you haven't studied it and you just prefer the older ways, you can still play these, right? They're not too bad, but they can be thwarted. What if white tries the under attachment of the 1-3 combo? So looking at this, right, we've learned this also from last week, and I'm sure everybody knows of this under attachment. I'm sure they've seen it all the time, right? This one down here. But the differences between the low stone and the high stone, this is actually much better for black, and we'll see. So if we go through pretty much the same motions, right? We guard here. This is very important. And when white comes up, well, now once black peeps and makes a little base connection, this is under much more threat because this stone is higher than where it would be at A. So if we look at the same comparison on the bottom, right, if we went through the same exact motions, this stone is low, so it's not as aggressive, but this stone is high, and so it's very aggressive against this group here. This was a good lesson for me to learn, and one I will be able to explain better from now on, right? Which is nice. This attachment at 1 is worse than before. Once white attaches and black's marked stone is higher than the A stone, black's attack is much more severe when combined with 10 and 12. So there has to be something better for white, right? This idea that if this is slack, and this is just worse off, then there must be a better move, right? And so you've probably seen this a lot too, but it's always nice to get a full explanation of this, which is this peep here. This peep, the computer really liked it, and now the pros do too, right? In the post AI era, this is the best move to handle the open door response or open door move. This used to be considered a crude move, but the AI made it very effective and is seen as the best move nowadays. So if black was to play A, then we can come under, and if black, let's say, guards the corner, then white gets to play 4. And this position is really nice for white. White is fully settled, and back in the day, black used to be able to play this move to press down white, but because this marked stone, this forcing move is here, black can't press down here, right? It doesn't work as well because black's cut off. And so this is a really nice situation for white. For black, on the other hand, the corner is practically shared, right? And this is open to attack. And so it feels kind of a little heavy and a little awkward, whereas white's moves are efficiently spaced and just feel efficient. So I'll read the script. You're going to catch me repeating myself a lot. If white answers at 1 and 3, 1 and 3, white treats the mark stone as a forcing move. This move is good for stopping black's movement. This is an excellent move to stop black's movement. This exchange helps against the old pressing move technique at A. This is good for white, so black usually doesn't answer with 3, which I've experimented with this as well. And like what we're going to see here, it doesn't feel that good even if you don't answer. So it doesn't feel good if you answer, and it doesn't feel good if you tanuki either. So if we tanuki and then white takes the corner, well, now this is much bigger of a threat than it looks. So I'll try and stick more to the script instead of giving you guys my opinions, because I tend to just repeat myself, right? So black can try to tanuki and take a big point, but white too is bigger than it seems. Not only does it take the corner, but it has a good attacking follow up at A here. The mark stone is a good forcing move. This mark stone here is a good forcing move to make black heavy. This is a good example of why the open door response is much less popular. Instead of answering the peep with the connect, you can resist though. So just saying, let's say if black played somewhere else and it was white's turn, well, now this is actually extremely aggressive against this group. Even if black does live, you can imagine black's going to make very little to no points. Excuse me. So you can see how effective this actually is, just taking the corner immediately. Pretty cool and very useful to know. So finally, if you're the black player, let's say you continue to play this, even now knowing it's a little less popular or less efficient, but you continue to play this anyway, and white peeps you. Well, you don't want to submit. If you want, well, you can if you like simpler games. But if you like complicated fighting and you don't want to feel like you've gotten the bad end of the deal, you can play B to resist. Now, we're going to go through this. If white, this is a forcing move, so instead of like saving your forcing move, white ends up tanukiing. And if black blocks on this side, well, now white can actually cut through. And so this cut looks really interesting. Resisting with let's white. Oh, resisting. There we go. Let's white invade the corner. Push and cut. This type of play leads to very complicated fighting. This particular example was taken from a Kisei title match. This was Yamashita Kego as black, and Iyama Yuta. Yuta is playing as white. He was defending the title, the Kisei title. So if black then shortens these liberties and white tries to make more space, white tries to make more space, white has a big weakness here, and so white then saves this group on the outside. Black gets the first move against the inside group. And so now you can see that white is in trouble, really. This is a difficult reading fight. When black pushes on here, once again, white cares more about the outside. Black then Ataris, and white pushes, black takes, and then white jumps. And so now black takes the corner and white builds an outside influence. This is considered better for white, but can be considered even. So at an amateur level, I would say if black got compensated with a lot of captures in a nice corner, it's pretty decent for black. But you can't deny how good this wall is versus facing white's potential. And so this is considered at a pro level better for white. When white first peeps, black can resist. Just know it will lead to complicated fighting. I found this really interesting and helpful for me. The open door response has changed quite a bit thanks to the AI. So if your opponent plays the older style of this open door, you now have some really good tools to handle against this, right? And you know that almost any other response is bad for one reason or another. Still, though, the author says at an amateur level, it's fine to play the old stuff. So feel free to play what you want. We're just here to learn. Theme 14, playing the 3-3 in the corner. So this is what I would call the early 3-3, right? Playing a 3-3 in an empty corner was popular in the Showa period from 1926 to 1989. It was a favorite of players such as Chochikun and Sakata Io, two names I recognize from Kisiedo books, right, and videos, right? Lots of people cover Chochikun, and I've seen some books with Sakata Io. In the Heisei period, I know I'm saying this wrong. People were correcting me during the live Twitch. I'm sorry. But I'm going to just call it Heisei for now. In the Heisei period, this move went out of fashion. So from 1989 to 2019, playing the early 3-3s were out of fashion, right? They weren't popular. But thanks to AI, this is seeing a huge resurgence in the modern era. The computer likes to play 3-3s, right? So, like if it was white's turn or black's turn, and they play an early 3-3, right? They love to play 3-3s on start points. So the idea is, why not just play there yourself instead, right? Just play there and make things easier on yourself. There are a few variations to know when studying the 3-3. So if you enjoy a simpler game, it's recommended. I like playing simple games myself, so I feel like I should, give this a try more often. As of late, I've been learning so many new things, right, from this book. I feel like it's been putting me down a stone because I keep trying to experiment with them. Because my play has become so experimental. Yeah, maybe that's the reason. Um, so if black approaches with a large knight, then we use a large knight to move, right? If black approaches with a knight's move, then you can use a knight's move to respond as well. So this idea makes this really simple to use, right? The idea is you can almost mirror your opponent in a sense. If black comes back to make a base, then white also just makes a base, right? If black approaches with a large knight's move, white answers with the same in return. Black makes a base and white makes a base. So extremely simple, right? Also, instead of white 2, you could have played at A as well. It seems a little flat to me. I like this, what do you want to call it? Balance of high and low stones. So I'm not a big fan of A, but it could have been played also. Now, the other move that would happen, right? Either black approaches the 3-3, or black would try to play on top of the 3-3. But what happens here is if white pushes and black moves forward, well, now we have two moves, right? One of the older style Josekis was this A move, and so it's discussed in this book. Guys, if you guys don't remember what book I'm talking about, it's called Fuseki Revolution. So if you move, if black stops the movement of white this way, right, this gives a nice influence towards black side. White then can make a knight's move, and so now white's also making good influence towards white's side. And then black makes a base. This is an older Joseki. Each move makes sense to me, right? All these moves make sense. But white is considered inefficient. So they use, I don't know if this would be particularly called Tawari, but I'm just going to call it Tawari. It's this idea where they shift the stones a little bit and see why 4 is inefficient. So we're going to go back to the beginning. And instead of using the 3-4 stone, we're using a, or sorry, 3-3 stone, we're using a 3-4 stone. So when black uses the knight's move, then white kicks, black stands up, white jumps and, is clearly trying to make territory, and then black pushes to make a base. If you notice, black stones are in the exact same position they were in the other formation, but white stones are a bit different. This would be semi-efficient, but if we add the stones from the previous variation, we'll be able to see better, like how it looks to the other formation. So, as black, if we play A and exchange white for B, right, then this is pretty much the same exact formation we saw. The difference is this stone is here at C4 instead of at A. And so you can see that this is gaining more points and doesn't have a wasted move at A. And so this is much more efficient, guys, right? Yeah, I hope you guys can understand that when we played A, it was almost like a wasted move. So it would have been much better just to have this formation, right? This solid formation. White gave way when he played at A in the previous variation. So the old Joseki was considered bad or inefficient, hence its reason for its loss in popularity and the Heisei period. So if we go back, so instead of playing A, now the AI has revived this opening and saying that B would be the right answer. And as we see, it's the very efficient move that we saw from the last position. So black jumps, and then white jumps. And so to me, white looks pretty secure in this corner right now. So it's considered pretty good, right? When AI arrived, it retired the move at A and used the solid turn. Now white's shape is considered excellent and has become the modern AI standard. This is different from the Joseki books from the 70s that I grew up with, that I learned from. So very cool update. Now this is where things get very interesting to me. It does go further into play. So if black was to, let's say, play here, it's very interesting to me to see this pincer. It's interesting to block this way, right? Because to me, if black has a decent group, we can't really make a lot of points here. But white gives up the corner and goes for the influence anyway. And it's because of this move that looks weird to me that I probably wouldn't have found. It's this armpit hit, right? I'm trained not to enjoy the armpit hit. Because what happens is, in one move, you get split from your group. The difference is that if white is really strong here, and white is really strong here, then it's okay to get split because now you don't have to worry about either side, and black looks like it's being attacked in a really good manner, right? So let's read the script. Black moves on to the next part of the game with this approach here. White pincers and gives the corner to build influence on the right side. The hard move for me to find is white 12. Black splits with 13, and white builds a nice influence and a nice moyo, and has a fun attack against the black group. This is considered good for white, and I can totally see that. So this would be a really nice position if this came about. That's if black tanukis, essentially. Now, mind you, black can make a good position here, and it starts with this. This would be a little hard for me to feel comfortable playing. It makes sense, but it also feels like I'm pushing from behind. But what happens here is that because there's a cutting point, well, now you can create a little chaos here. So this is really nice for black. What happens is I'll show you the first results where if white plays on the proper side, and then black plays 7, Well, now black gets this kind of really nice shape. It blocks white's movement on the left side. If black continues, black can push at 1 and cut with 5. This is considered great shape for black, and black gets to block the left side. There is also aji in the corner that can lead to a 2-step ko. For white 6, he should not play A. So we'll look at not playing on this side first. If white plays on this side first, so this idea of, black did a chop and hold, and white needs to figure out which side to play on. Well, if white plays on this side, black takes, white takes, and then black gets to play this nice Tetsuji. The idea is it feels like another chop and hold Tetsuji, but the idea is that if white plays down, black can play on top. That's already good influence. If white plays up, then black can play down, and so black then sneaks its way out. And so then this group becomes cut off from this group. So either way, black kind of gets a decent result, and you can see this is a really nice nose Tetsuji. Okay, so finally, I just want to look at the aji, which is here. This idea that it feels very slow for white to come capture this. So I think this early in the game, white would Tanuki. And if black is making an influence this way, it makes sense white would Tanuki to neutralize that wall. But later on, I don't think black would do this immediately, but I could be wrong. But the idea is that later on, this becomes a huge headache for white because black can bring this down to 2 liberties. Black can do a throw in, and because of the uniqueness of the corner, black can play this to get a ko. So if white takes, black now has a 2-step ko. And obviously, if black wins this ko, it would be huge. It would be a huge corner. If white stops the ko, well, now black just gets a direct ko. Instead of being 2-step, it's 1-step ko. And so this is a headache for white, in my opinion, that 5th stone there. So really keep this in mind. Very interesting stuff. Okay, so that was the 3-3. Now we are going to move on to everyone's new modern favorite, the kick. Lifting the diagonal attachment taboo. So back in the day, I'll just read the script, so I don't repeat myself. The kick attachment at 1 was considered a typical bad amateur move. Similar to the early 3-3 move, right? Back in the day, early 3-3s were considered bad. Not anymore, right? Same thing. The kick also is considered good. But it used to be considered bad, is what I mean. Thanks to the AI's wisdom. Pros started playing this quite often. If you've joined the 3rd round reviews for the North American Online League, or now, you'll, for short, strong players like Tang Ji hates to see this kick in Q games. He doesn't believe Q players know how to use these kicks properly. Now, I've laughed when he said it. But he mentioned if you're not a Dom player, then usually people tend to mess this up. But if we learn from this book why this is good, we can hopefully make Tangji happy, right? So we need to practice these variations, guys. This is a call to arms that if you're going to use the kick, learn why it's good, right? So let us look at the position. When black... Okay, so looking at this, we're actually going to go backwards first before we go forward. Excuse me. It's this idea that if we think the kick is bad, that means that we need to play the other moves, right? And so first, let's look at the original back off move, right? If white backs off, this actually gives black the freedom to come over here and take the largest move on the board. This is really good. And even when it's 2 stones against the 1, black can manage. So if white was to, let's say, come over here to try and take care of this weakness, well, then black can pincer. And although it doesn't cover when white plays here, I think most players would play here. It covers if white tries to run away, then black plays 6, and it makes this ideal position, right? If white doesn't kick and backs off with 1, black switches gears, taking a very big move. If white tries to prevent the double wing, right, black getting both sides, black pincers and uses its stones in the most efficient way possible, right? This idea of attacking the number 3 stone and then building a lot of territory while attacking. This is fantastic for black. This attack is making territory, so it's very good for black. Um, I wrote can, but the idea is that white probably shouldn't play through here. Now, mind you, this can become really complicated once you put these 2 stones together, and it's some Josekis that you can test out on your own. But it doesn't cover it in the book, unfortunately, so we're going to move on. But ideally, the professional doesn't recommend this move. So now, what if we pincer more closely, right? We're trying to attack this more aggressively. Because if we play over here, then black can make a base, right? And so let's take away black's base. Well, now black can just attach and then settle kind of easy down here. If white pincers, black can use the attach combo to settle. This is not so bad for white, so it's not really that bad for white in this case, but it falls in line with black's plan. Black wanted this stone here, this marked stone, and so this kind of goes into black's plan essentially. In the consideration of the mark stone for this mark stone response for white to back off, this was good for black, or at least feels good for black. Finally, if white was to kick, black just gets stronger. White tries to attack this, but because this stone is low, right, this attack actually isn't that strong, and so black then counterattacks. I think, and mind you, I don't remember the game position where Tangji said that, but I think it was similar to this, where maybe amateurs were using kicks with like low stones, and so it's not that useful, right? And so this is considered bad. Let's read the script. If white starts with the kick with the mark stone, black will probably stand, right? Black stands at 2, getting stronger. If white tries the same pincer as earlier, it doesn't work as well. White's mark stone is low, and the stone here is low, and won't help as much in the fighting that is about to happen. Black has more room to run. If having a high stone is so important, why don't we just play the high stone first, right? And so let's take a look. So instead of playing this back off move, which we've seen, black can kind of get the better of in most cases, what if we just play C, right? The 1 jump, the open door. Well, we just learned about this, right? And so we know why this is better for black, right? This feels kind of heavy, and black gets a kind of Mii. So let's take a look. If we play the open door, black peeps, and if white responds, it creates a Mii where black either gets to play a good attacking pincer or a big move at B, which is what black wanted. Black also has settled very easily on the bottom here. So it's really a win-win for black. Let's go back to the move that used to be taboo, right? This idea of kicking first and then jumping. Well, now we are going to see if black, right? In the last variations, we saw black with Tanuki here, right? And so play this move. So if black tried the same trick, which then white can now pincer, and because the stone is high, this is a really good attack against this. I'm gonna repeat myself reading it, but yeah, if black tries the same old trick of switching to the big move, white 3 and 5's pincer is much more forceful. This is considered very good for white. So we can see that when we kick, our opponent needs to respond, and this gives white sente. And so that's why this kick is considered good. This is why the pros enjoy it nowadays. This is why the AI uses it, right? It's this idea, and I'll read the script. It's me repeating myself. But yeah, essentially it's an Ascente exchange. If black makes a base, then white can make a splitting move at 2. So this would be a really nice splitting move here. So the true reason why pros enjoy the kick early nowadays is to make sure that black doesn't tanuki, right? This idea that black shouldn't tanuki, if so, black's going to get punished. So black needs to make a base, and then white gets a sente exchange. So the corner is still open, guys. You guys are probably well aware of the weaknesses here. But the idea is that if we can take sente and ruins black plans, then this is considered pretty good. So we can lift the taboo of kicking early. Now, if black tanuki'd, we could also immediately jump in here. And this actually makes things hard for black as well, in my opinion. So if white is worried about black making a large moyo on the bottom, white can invade immediately. If black answers the normal way, white then hanes, sacrifices the stone, puts black in bad shape within the Satari, asks if they can take the stone back, and of course black says no. And so now white plays 8. And so you can see black uses the sacrifice to press on black, neutralizing black's potential of making a moyo, right? And so this looks pretty good. I like this a lot. This feels very light because there's lots of sacrifice stones, but it makes life hard for black. So if black jumps and expands the territory, which I did this recently in one of my games, I used this move instead. But if black plays something like this, well, now white can then pincer the pincer in a sense. If black expands the moyo, white can make a pincer on the pincer. This makes the area hard to seize for black. This is why the kicked mark stone is considered not bad for white. So very interesting how the AI has changed the perspective of this move here. All right, let us look at the last thing. So what we're going to talk about is these 3/4s. Let's pretend the start points were here already, and then black approached this 3/4. Well, nowadays we've been seeing this kick quite a bit, right? This is infamously, I remember from the Points Lovers Fuseki that Inseong introduced to us, right? And so black plays this, and then white jumps, right? And so this idea comes where we kick early. The kick from the 3/4 stone was also considered pretty bad in the past, but this has become a very popular joseki now, especially with amateurs. I remember Yulin Yang, Mr. Yang, reviewed for the NAOL 4th round games, and he mentioned he does not like this joseki. And he said something that I found really interesting. So I want you to know, this isn't a direct quote. This is me saying what I recall him saying. But what he said along the lines is that AI is not perfect. It still has room to improve. If you put one AI against another, one is better, right? One usually is clearly better. So you're allowed to argue with the judgments of AI, which is a good way to look at this book as a whole. But I do want to also mention that, of course, these variations have been studied over and over by pros. So I have to, I feel like I should take the information that they're providing, and so the idea is that Mr. Yang does not like this kick, and he feels he's allowed to argue with the computers, which is more than fine. I thought that was a really nice perspective on that. But he does not like this. But the book says this is good. So this idea of why this kick was bad was because once we kick, black stands up, white jumps, and then black makes a base. The mark stone or kick was considered bad because black could make an ideal shape with a stone wall with a 3-space jump. So this idea was that black got this really nice position, right? When we have 2 stones, it's so ideal to make a 3-space jump. And so this was considered really good for black. And so this kick felt bad, right? Because you just put black in great shape. The thing about that is when we analyze it now, when white plays something like this, black plays here, and like let's say white plays here. The idea is that black can't develop a lot over here. So I'm gonna read the script so I'm not repeating myself. Uh, I say that like 3 to 5 times a video, so that's so funny. Sorry if you guys are getting annoyed with that. If black plays the good move of 1, you can see where white can neutralize black's potential very easily in what feels like sente, right? And so if black is lacking potential, it's now seen as just okay. It's not bad, but it's just subpar, right? It's just okay. This is a major shift in the pros worldview, right, of the game, our interpretation of the game. So black wants to try something more developable. So this old style is considered bad. So keep that in mind. So nowadays, black will then expand as far as it possibly can. If white backs off, black then harasses the corner. Black has a few options, right? He could hit white and then hit white and then come back to make a developable area. Black chooses to play the 3-space extension, chooses not to play the 3-space extension. Instead, he can go for a more developable position like this. If white tries to counterattack black, black raises up another level, white raises up another level, and then black is able to make another developable area. So this is good for black. To me, in my own eyes here, this looks like black had to pay a lot for this, right? So white has almost 1 corner, has another second corner. So I feel like black had to pay a lot for this. Still, though, this looks better than just playing a 3-space extension. Finally, if you don't want to risk something like this, then you can actually just peep here and come back. And so this is a simpler variation and still very playable for black. Now, if we don't, oh yes, sorry, there's one more. If we're worried that white won't back off and white decides to fight, and this isn't your favorite style, then we can move on to the 3-3. But let's go take a look at when white pincers. This is more my style, to be honest. If white doesn't like the other variation when it backs off at A, white can pincer here. This is more of my style. I would have to make sure to read out all the variations to feel comfortable with this, though. But I definitely enjoy this move more than backing off at A. So, if black makes a base to attack this, you can just run up. If black is worried about these 2 stones, then you can harass this group, which is helping you make your corner. And this is still under a lot of pressure. And if black jumps out, well, now you can see with white's pincer, he split the left side, right? Black has 1 group here, 1 group here, and white can continue to harass both sides. So this is considered an even fight because white has openings and a group to worry about. Excuse me. But yeah, so that is that. So finally, if you don't like getting pincered, if you're the black player and you don't like getting pincered, oops, you could play the immediate 3-3. If white plays very normally, right, very normal responses to the 3-3, and then tries to attack these stones, black will harass the corner, harass the side, make a huge leap. This is like a flying jump to me. But the idea is that black is expanding on the outside quickly. We're going to lean on this group, which actually makes it very small. This is actually very tiny, right? And so now with black out and feeling safe, black can now take the biggest move. And this feels really nice also. This actually feels less complicated than the fighting. It's this idea that black gets one corner, white gets one corner. Black gets some of the side. White gets some of the side, and then black gets the next move on the side. So this is really nice for black. Black can also early 3-3. The author judgment of the early kick at the mark stone uh, goes for early profit. So White's trying to get early profit with this kick, which is a recent trend for both pros and the focus of AI. What was the huge change on this, study was that Black's three space base used to be considered ideal for years and years, right? But now has seen that it just feels okay, or even that it's lacking because of the AI. So the AI asks for more using a move like the approach, right, at C14 or the early 3-3. So that is it, guys. That is the end. If you guys made it to the end and you've been enjoying the content, please consider liking and subscribing. Also, it isn't the end because I still do have some variations I need to cover, I think. I forget this one all the time. I don't know why. But the idea was looking at this kick, we could see why it was considered, fairly good. And we also could see what the old conventional wisdom wasn't is updated right now. We need to ask for more for black. But what I didn't mention to you guys is why the kick is considered okay here. And so let us finish that off. And sorry about the early ending outro. So we looked at the kick. Let's go look at B. So if black approaches and white decides, hey, I'm going to Tanuki, well, now black gets the next move, gets to push down white, and then gets Sente after, right? And so this is considered much better for black. If white Tanukis, black pushes down white, and this feels unsatisfactory for white. So that's why the kick is better than just Tanuki. Finally, if we play this or this, well, guess what? These are okay. To prevent being pushed down, white usually will not Tanuki and instead play one or at A. So this Shusaku diagonal or this modern Knight's move, these moves are A-okay. So feel free to use them and it becomes a whole different game at that point, right? So these are probably more preferred by older generations, right, who enjoy the older moves. I play them, of course, all the time as well, but sometimes if I want a territorial game, I'll kick and take the early territory. And if my opponent plays the normal move, well, now I'm going to have a field day. Right now I'm going to feel like I've gotten up in the opening. So that is it, guys. That is the true ending. Once again, feel free to like and subscribe. Appreciate you guys watching it. I'm going to keep bringing you guys more each week. I highly encourage you guys to read the book if you can, if you have it. I think it's like $25 maybe on the Kissieta website, and I think like maybe 27 on Amazon. So feel free to grab it if you can. If not, keep enjoying the videos. But what I was gonna say was watching this once, just sitting down and watching this once, you're not gonna be able to absorb all this information. I've taught this at least 4 times now. And I've gone over it and like created all these diagrams, right, from the book, obviously. Um, and even I don't feel like I've memorized everything, right? And so practice and repetition, right? If there's some of these that interest you, and you know that they've been playing them a lot against you, like your opponents, then definitely play these out on your board. Play them out either on a virtual demo board or playing them out on your board at home. That is the main way to be able to grasp and like learn and memorize. But I will say that if I personally um, re-practice these over and over, I would feel like I'd have a mastery, right, of the opening. So, and that would be nice. It would help me with my teaching for sure. All right, guys. Overextended ending. Thanks for coming through. I hope you have a good day or evening. Bye bye.